There we go.
Right. So, what was the question I was asking? I was asking
You were
about
asking about sticking with things.
how to stick at things, particularly so someone's downloaded your course, they want to stick at it, life gets in the way. How do you do it?
I think there's a couple of things. So actually, one of the courses is about life design. And so the idea of life design is creating life affirming systems. And it's what I came up with before I did the ecosystem design. So the ecosystem design is a development of that. I think we have an innate knowing. And the video I'm going to record, or is on my list to record, is about why I don't actually think procrastination exists, which is
Ooh,
going to be a bit controversial, I'm sure. But it's linked with this concept I'm going to talk about now. So for me, I don't know, I had to tap into when I did that drastic action that caused my spiritual awakening, and I had decided enough was enough. I was then presented with a choice, which was, am I going to choose to make my life better or not? And everything that I was taught about that and respond and connecting with nature, I think from viewing nature, I've just got some GB, so this is possibly correct. Everything that's alive, other than humans who overthink everything, is always trying to make the life better. They're always following whatever it is, their intuition towards life, towards reproduction, towards food, shelter, all these things that they want. They're always trying to meet their needs. And we get a lot of this. This is part of why shadow work and this deconditioning is so important, because we're taught all these messages, a lot of it at school, but through our social systems and relationships and things, we start people pleasing. There's lots of complex reasons why we take on all this stuff. But actually, when we decide we can't cope with something, when it's not meeting our needs and we realize we need something else, we generally naturally gravitate towards it. Once we realize we need it, we don't always go after the things we want, but we generally do go for what we need. So we can ignore a bit of hunger. Oh, I fancy a snack, but I'm into this work, whatever. Once you get really hungry, something takes over and you're like, I'm going to eat, or something else is generally something becomes a need for us. Um, I, funnily enough, I don't stick to things for very long. But I am an investigator, and things tend to come around for me. So, for example, it seems to me it takes me about 3 years to learn something, to really learn it. And also, breaking a habit takes about 3 months, right? If you really want to break a habit. It can take a lot longer if you keep going back and things like that. But once you've gone past 3 months, you kind of know you're free from that habit or that addiction. And going back is a choice. Because generally most things are out your system by that time. You've had to adopt new habits. So actually stepping back is a choice. And actually what's happened for me is, and what I teach through the life design process and what links with conscious creation, is don't fight with stuff. Try it and learn. Because actually, once we learn that something's good for us, and we learn that we learn something's bad for us, and then we choose it, there's something in the energy, something in the power that changes. So let us explain. Maybe it's a bit better. If we're not paying attention and we're just doing something that's an unhealthy coping habit, we can do it and do it and do it and do it and do it. It generally gets to a crisis point or gets to some point where we have some sort of realization, oh, is this actually causing me pain? Is this actually causing me some long-term detriment? And it's generally only when we get to that point that people will seek some sort of healing or want to, like that's generally the point where people look for recovery or want to drop a habit or anything like that. We can actually, as humans, we can maintain a lot of BS for a long time, right?
yeah.
We can and we will. But as soon as we realize that's not good for me, there's this niggle that exists. And I don't think we can particularly ignore that niggle for very long. You might not know what to do to get to do differently. And that's the challenge and that's the learning. So it can then take some time of exploration and learning. And sometimes some practices that are good for one person are not for another. Sometimes we don't always need the practice. So one thing I talk about as well is like, if you've got the kind of mind that gets a bit obsessed with things, it can be really helpful because you can swap one addiction for another. You can swap a bad addiction for a good one. Like you can swap, if you drink too much and you realize you want to stop drinking, you could do something else that's beneficial or even a bit better to stop you drinking. That's why like a lot of people who stop smoking will eat. At least it's better than the smoking because they're trying to stop smoking. But then you've kind of got the problem that you've gained weight or you're eating too much. And that's just life. Things change and cycle. And actually, this is where emotional maturity and things come in because we're actually increasing our tolerance for pain, but also our intolerance for pain. Let me change that. Our tolerance for discomfort and our intolerance of pain.
Ooh.
Because anything new is going to be a bit uncomfortable. And actually, most of the time when we're doing a bad habit or something that's not helpful for us, it's uncomfortable. And it's only at the point, and we'll tolerate that for a really long time. But we'll also avoid new discomfort.
Yes.
Is that making sense, right? So because it's the unknown and we think that's going to be really uncomfortable, it's like, it's kind of finding this balance between it. It'll get to a point where it's like, actually, I cannot tolerate this anymore. I have to change, but that's a bit scary. And it might be we only do the good thing or the practice for a week and then we fail. This is where the creative process comes in and we fail, right? And we don't do it anymore. But it's changed something in our awareness, right?
I'll fail then.
We've learned if it helps or not. And we've learned what it helped with or not.
Yeah.
And to me, that is like a gain.
Yes.
That's exactly what I use in the life design process. It's like at the beginning, you're going to be crap at everything because you're trying to do something brand new and you don't know how to do it. And, it's like trying to draw the line, right? You're going to be crap at it because you don't have the skills, you don't have the muscle memory, you don't know if it's going to work or not. And not every practice is going to work for everyone, and not every technique or whatever is going to work for everyone. So at the beginning of a life design process, all you're doing is experimenting and you're finding out, does it work? Does it help or not? And sometimes things help and then they stop helping and then we slip back into an old habit. But then we'll see the consequences of the old habit, if this makes sense.
Yes.
Once you actually see the consequence of the old habit, it's like, that thing did help. And then you do the thing and you might do the thing for a bit longer again. And
it's almost like, I think going back to an old habit is almost like, how the magic trick works, but you still go to the magic show and you expect to have the same effect, but you don't. But it's almost like
really
you go and go, oh. It's like,
and then
with an X, isn't it?
And you've got that extra layer of you've let yourself down. And we know that. And I don't think we should beat ourselves up for that. But we know we learn something every time we do something or stop doing something. And eventually over a period of time, like I say, I spent, I'm talking like 12 years of just different things that I did. And you learn a lot and you learn with your mind first. Then it comes into your body. And once you feel the difference and you actually start to see effect and actually you adopt something as part of your lifestyle or something, it's back then in your subconscious mind. So you're not even thinking about it anymore. You don't have to know if it's good for you or not because you've already gathered all that information and it just becomes part of your lifestyle. And people maybe learn different ways. Like the amount I used to beat myself up about putting things off, the procrastination thing, which like I say, I'll do the video about, or not being disciplined enough. When actually I realized when I just accept that's not how my energy works, I work in this cycle. So like I learn things and I'll dive into it and I'll conceptualize it in my head and then I'll maybe put it down and do something else, or something else will crop up that takes my interest and I'll do that for a bit, which is kind of how I've gathered so much information that is useful. And then, like I say, I'll kind of learn it again on a deeper level. It'll come back around. I'm like, oh yeah, that was really interesting. That was helpful. I'll try it again. I'll get into it again. And then it kind of gets into your body and now you've got the muscle memory because you kind of like thought about it before, you considered it, the interest comes back around and you maybe do it a bit more and you start to build up a bit of muscle memory. And then even if you drop it again, if it comes around again, you kind of know, I know how to do it. That actually did help. And I know what it helps with. And then you know when to do it. Like, it's the only way I can describe it. It's like, and that's just how I learned to recover, especially like linking this, because most habits and addictions are very similar. I know like some addictions literally have physical like responses, but I smoked for a long time. I smoked from like nicotine, and we know that's a really physically addictive drug, right? And it's all the habit of all this and everything. I actually stopped smoking because of, it was a guy called Jason Vale, but actually it was Alan Carr. It was based on the ideas of Alan Carr's book. Once you know something's bad for you and you choose to do it, then you are making that choice, and you kind of know, then you become aware. And like I say, once your awareness has changed, it's really actually quite hard. You're actually then fighting with yourself to make the bad choice. And that's what happens in a process of addiction. Some of my addictions took way longer to like drop than others. And sometimes I even come back. So I didn't drink there was a period where I didn't drink anything at all for several years. I can't remember how long it was, because then I realized like I dropped it, and I would like have a drink again. And I know some people really feel like they can't do that. And again, like I say, some of the things I say people find really controversial, like you should not say that. Once an addict, always an addict. I don't believe that, because actually what I learned was I can have a drink and put it down, because the reason I was drinking before was to cope. The reason why the drinking became a problem was because I was coping. I was trying to cope. I was trying to avoid pain. I was trying to avoid stress. I was trying to get away from that discomfort. And I couldn't tolerate discomfort. I couldn't tolerate stress. I couldn't, my nervous system was so like, I was drinking for the wrong reasons. And I definitely did need to stop. So I did need to get clean. I did need to have no alcohol at all. And then once I realized I wasn't drinking for that reason, and then I tried to drink again, I didn't actually like it. So I can have a drink now, right? I'll have a drink and I'll enjoy it. I'll get a little buzz. It's nice. If I have more than that, it's not nice. I don't like feeling drunk. And I'm not trying to block anything. I'm not coping with life through the drink. I'm not blocking any trauma with the drink. I'm not avoiding any stress with the drink. If I have a drink, which is maybe like a cider or something like that, it's because I just think it'll taste nice, or it'll be like a nice little buzz. And then I'll have one, and then that's it. I can put it down and walk away, because I don't have the same addictive tendencies. Like it's not a crutch anymore. And my body has learned that. So my level of self-respect for my body has gone to that point where it's like, I don't want to feel drunk, because I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to feel the negative effects. So if I got really drunk now and then had a horrible hangover, which is probably what would happen, I know I'm not going to do that again, because I have more self-respect for myself than when I was in the state of mind where I would just tolerate those and, keep going with the hangovers. I don't know if that's making sense, but I think if we can tap into the innate desire to better ourselves and set an intention, it is a balancing act between accepting ourselves, accepting our humanity. We are going to fail, potentially. We are flawed. We might slip it back into bad habits. But once we can actually start to choose better for ourselves, and then we gather evidence, because like I say, I'm an investigator. I like to gather evidence. Don't tell me meditation helps, right? I'm going to do the meditation and find out if it helps.
So how do you know if it helps?
Because you feel better.
Simple as that. Feel better.
Yeah. You'll feel better. Even if it's hard, you'll feel better for doing it. It's that innate in us.
And is that a physical feeling, an emotional feeling, a think, like how? Because, and is it a lot like, because sitting and watching Netflix can make you feel better in the short term, but then can make you feel a bit afterwards. So how do you know the difference? I'm just playing devil's advocate slightly.
Because the feeling changes, right? Let me tap into this. It's in the body, I think. It's in the body because it's innate, right? It's like that feeling, right? When you eat chocolate, it tastes good. You have too much chocolate, you feel sick.
Yeah.
And there's always like our body will tell us. Our body will tell us, and there's nothing wrong with eating a little bit of chocolate to feel good. That's just part of being human. But if we're going to do it every day, and actually a good indicator, but like I say, this is where it kind of links with mental health, and the mental health comes into it. A good indicator is if you're fighting with yourself about it. And you can dive into why you're fighting with yourself about it. So let me explain. If you're eating the chocolate, your body will send a signal that's enough chocolate. So I feel good, right? We'll get the inspiration, chocolate, good idea. It makes you feel good. You get the chocolate, you eat a bit of chocolate, get to that point where you actually know you're satisfied with the amount of chocolate you've had, right? That's a crucial point. And that's one of the things in life design that, like I say, I think animals tend to do this quite innately, that you can tap into this peak, this limit, right? Because there's a limit of when you've had enough. And when you go beyond that and you've had too much, you're going to start to have negative consequences. So you're going to start to feel sick, or something's going to kick in your head where you justify it. That's probably the best word, right? So you'll get this innate, don't eat any more chocolate. That's the signal from your body, I'm satisfied. But your brain will start justifying, oh, I'll just have one more piece. I'll just have one more piece. I'll just have one more piece. And then something else might come in and go, you're such a fat, horrible person. And then you make yourself feel shit, right? Excuse my French. I don't know if you.
Oh, no, it's all good.
Then you make yourself feel shit about it. And then that gives you a reason to eat more chocolate because you want to feel good again. It's like a bit of a vicious cycle. But once you become aware of it, it's like these critical points, and you're choosing ultimately your wellness. So that swing goes up and you have your little bit of chocolate. You feel good about eating the chocolate and you put the chocolate away, and you've actually got that nice upswing from it. And then there's no need for any criticism or self-criticism because you're not using that. You know, the chocolate's not going to solve your life problems. You know what I mean? You know, the chocolate is not good for you if you're going to eat chocolate all day, every day. You know it. And then even choosing then to put the chocolate away, depending on what stage you are, you know, in choosing yourself and that kind of wellness and recovery is a boost as well. Do you know what I mean? So then you feel good. You feel good about putting the chocolate away. You feel good about eating the chocolate, and you feel good about putting the chocolate away. So it always feels better, the choice that you're making, even when sometimes it's a hard choice.